This is our third EaP Plus webinar on research and innovation topics. So this webinar will tackle the issue of exploitation strategy in research and innovation collaborative projects. So here on this slide, you can see the agenda. The webinar will start by an introduction by our speaker, Svetlana Krisova, who will talk a little bit about the EaP Plus project and this series of webinars. So from afterwards, for about a half an hour, Svetlana will present us her presentation on exploitation strategy in H2020 project. Afterwards, Alexandra Petkevich, our second guest speaker from Belarus, will present a case study on project called Mesmerize. Finally, we will conclude, and in the last half an hour of the webinar, we will answer all the questions. So this is important. Please, if you have any questions during the webinar, type them down in the conversation chat, and in the last half an hour, we will be answering them. So just a few words about our speakers. Svetlana Krisova is the director and the senior innovation consultant at TSD, an innovation consultancy firm in France. And our guest speaker, Alexandra Petkevich, she is the chief project manager at Adani in Belarus. So now I will hand over the presentation to Svetlana Krisova. Svetlana?
Yes, very well. So welcome everyone. I will just start with our traditional few words about the Eastern Partnership Plus project. This is about a project about science, technology, innovation, international cooperation network for Eastern Partnership countries. And so we launched in September 2016, and we really want to support policy dialogue, but especially enhance EU Eastern Partnership research innovation partnerships. So this is actually the project goal. We have a number of activities that will come, so we invite you all to check regularly the website of the project, because there will be definitely activities that are relevant to you. So the project develops activity based on the needs of the participants, of the specialists from Eastern Partnership countries. Okay. We have a series of 6 webinars. This is the 3rd webinar. So they are registered, they're recorded, and can be accessed through the website and I think YouTube. And so we spoke about innovation strategy, about innovation management. So now it is about exploitation strategies in the projects. And actually all these topics are designed based on the analysis of your actual interests. So we did this analysis at the beginning of the project. Okay, so that were my just few introductory words about Eastern Partnership Plus. Again, more information is available on the website. Okay. Actually, we have a special series of webinars on Horizon 2020, and they are organized by our partner IPPT PAN, who kindly organized this webinar too. So we planned actually to speak only about exploitation strategy outside Horizon, but we received a number of comments from partners, from participants, asking to orient this webinar with an example on a Horizon project, which is actually quite classical research innovation collaborative project, just special program. So that was what we did, okay? And that's why what I will present here and what Alexandra will present are relevant to Horizon projects. I want just to say that we are speaking here about exploitation. So you will have access to the slides, okay? So they will be uploaded on the website of the project. I don't want to spend much time about terminology, but just to remind you that there are a number of key terms that are relevant, and we put this on the slide. And when we speak about exploitation, we speak about the use of results in other research, in further research activity, other than the activities that are done by the project, okay? Or it could be developing, creating, marketing a product or a service, or could be standardization activities. So everything which is called uptake of the project results. Okay, and this is, I think, important. This is the focus on this webinar. When we speak about exploitation, we shall remember that it is integrated in the overall process of communication, dissemination, and exploitation activities. And you can see this on this slide. In the communication activities, we usually start the project. Then we go more in depth in dissemination. We discuss with audience that may make use of the results. And then we come to exploitation. Okay? And this is really about making concrete use of results or steps towards this concrete use. What is quite a common challenge, and I would even say problem, that in a number of projects, exploitation is tackled rather at the end of the project. And from our experience, it is better actually to start with thinking on exploitation. It's a good idea when the project is started to ask all questions that you will see later on the slides, okay, and others, of course, because this will help you in the future activities of the project, okay, so that's really important. I try to put on the slides different examples. What are really exploitation activities in the project? Okay, so you see that, of course, when we start about communication and dissemination, the all conference participation and websites, okay, this is not exploitation. When we speak about exploitation, it's really about making use of the results or preparing making this use. It's about IP protection, it's about market study, exploitation roadmaps, funding analysis, and all the relevant activities, okay, and not to mention just several of them. When you actually, these are the questions that if you do Horizon project proposal, you start a proposal with these questions. But we are not here in a webinar about preparation of a proposal of Horizon project, right? So when you start the project, Horizon or anything else, okay, ask yourself some key questions. And it might seem quite simple, okay, and evident, but believe me, it's not always actually these questions are asked. So here you have, for example, 6 questions that really are the basic line for all exploitation activities. What you will create? Where do you want to have an impact through exploitation? What are the needs of customers or users or whatever? Yeah. What will be done during the project and after the project? After, it means you will not have money anymore if this is public funded project. So you shall think already beforehand. So what can be done during the project and later on, and who are the users, how you will involve them, and so on. Again, you will see other questions later on, but these are the basic line, okay? And then what we usually recommend to do, and from, again, the experience shows that it's good to start with this. It's to prepare a kind of draft exploitation plan in the project. And what it is about. So it's a short document that explains what can be what will be the exploitable results of the project. So what do you want to achieve? How you want to exploit these results? Which steps will be done to protect and exploit these results? And also, can you plan already a revision at what are the milestones, what are the steps when you really need to plan that something should be updated? For example, integrate feedback from the users. And we are very happy that you have today at this webinar 2 concrete examples of projects. So one example I will give, it's a project where we are involved. So I'm myself exploitation manager and responsible for EaP RDI exploitation board of this project, okay? and this is NMP Spire program, and for another project that Alexandra, our guest speaker from Belarus, will give example. So without giving technical details of the project, so CoPro is a project about improved energy and resource efficiency, but better coordination of production in the process industry. So it's a 6 million project. We have 17 partners from 8 countries. It's a research and innovation action. And you see you have 3 categories of partners. You have industrial end users, those who provide use cases, examples. So you have SMEs who develop technologies. You have universities who work with SMEs and with users, and you have our organization, an SME, who works with impact maximization and guide exploitation. It doesn't mean that we do exploitation instead of partners. So our role is really more methodological and be a driver in exploitation and just including experience of all partners. And again, I don't want to spend time on this, but just to say that at the beginning of the project, we agreed what will be the value to customers, how it will happen. And actually, it was done, of course, at the proposal stage. And when we wrote answers to these questions, the core consortium, so we decided to organize the project through the use cases, because this is very easy for exploitation. I mean, it's better for exploitation. We have different use case and we test different technologies, methods, tools, and then, so if something doesn't work, we still have additional options for other technologies. So it's not putting all eggs in the same basket. And this was the approach that we decided in this project in CoPro. And we have actually dissemination and exploitation, which is looked in this project broadly. So we have scientific exploitation of results. Okay, we have research papers, we have, all what is scientific exploitation. And we have commercial exploitation, and again, maybe steps to commercial exploitation. Okay, and these are about internal exploitation within the partners who are multinational companies. If you maybe notice in the logos, we have Procter & Gamble, we have Ineos, we have big companies, big companies who are multinational companies, Covestro as partners. And already if this company exploit internally with their 100,000 people who work in the companies, okay, this will be already very good result. And also we discuss about external exploitation, who will be the customers outside the project partners, okay. So this is, and here on this slide you see how exploitation and dissemination is related. And when we decided to have, this exploitation discussion at the very beginning of the project, so we decided to make a timeline. And again, when I say we, it was really a consortium decision, okay? So we decided to make regular exploitation workshop. And it's not very usual in the research innovation action, because again, quite often it's done more close to the end of the project. So we started actually with exploitation discussion. And each partner contributed to this, and as facilitator, we provided questions, and it was very interesting discussions, okay? And we did internal exploitation plan, and actually what means we did? So each partner was asked specific questions about this. So how they plan to use, what are the challenges and so on. And this was discussed at the second workshop, and we did exploitation plan. And so based on this, later on in the project, we saw which help could be provided. And for example, we agreed that we need to make market studies, and this was very clear. And a common pitfall is to make something fixed already in the proposal. Like, for example, we do this market study on this topic, and actually it could evolve. Okay, so for example, we said we have some exploitation related activities and input and person months, and we will see later on how it will be used. And this was very helpful because we easily saw that we need to make 3 market studies. Okay, and then, okay, we are now in this, close to the selection of the topic for the market studies, and then it will be exploitation plan. It's just to give you a guideline how exploitation timeline can be in a project. And you saw that one of the milestone was to prepare exploitation plan. And what do we call exploitation plan in the project? And again, it could be, there is no single guideline. I mean, people have different experience, okay? I just use the example of a concrete project. So we wanted to make a guideline how to make industry-oriented exploitation that allows good project results to penetrate the market. Well, not good, but project results, okay? And so there were some items in this plan, so how to coordinate better, how to manage, protect, and whatever the results, okay? And by the way, in the Horizon project, the exploitation plan is mandatory. It is indicated in the grant agreement, okay? But again, if we are not on the Horizon project, it is not mandatory. It's really good to have it as early as possible, even if it is draft, yeah. And this exploitation plan actually helps everyone, including the project reporting in questionnaires about impact and all the rest that are also mandatory in the project. So how we agreed to make the exploitation plan in CoPro in project. So we start with a vision on exploitation results of the project. And again, I want to say that this is evolving document. This is prepared at the very beginning of the project. So we are projecting. So what do we want to have as a project result? And then at the end of the first year, we adapt it. So what is really achieved? What is done as a market study or not? Okay, I mean, what should be done? So it's a flexible, evolving document. Then we speak about scientific exploitation, academic cooperation, how we can use project result in education, because all this is exploitation of project result. We actually will have academic industry cooperation agreement, new training and industrial companies. All this is also exploitation, okay? And so this is a part that is usually prepared by the academic partners. And then we have preparation of commercial exploitation, the next chapter in this plan. And here, so I put some questions that is covered or could be covered here. For example, what are the strategies? What could be the business model? Is IP protection is required or not? And if you attended the previous webinars on IP, you learned that, of course, and you know this, that we don't necessarily need to protect IP as a patent, okay? We can use other forms of IP protection, other models, yeah. Okay, and then one of the important items here in this exploitation plan is how to get feedback from the potential users. And here we have a link to dissemination. So we don't have results yet, but as we do in parallel the dissemination activities, we get feedback from these users, okay? And we also saw who shall prepare business plans. I mean, because it makes no sense to ask university to prepare a business plan for a technology that will be implemented by the industrial user. So we rather ask industrial user to prepare the roll-up out of operations planning, for example, or we ask an SME to make a business plan, because they are really used to this. So there is a chapter on possible standardization strategies. It happens that it exists. Sometimes it's maybe not fully relevant. And then we go really into commercial exploitation roadmaps. So we have several technologies, and that's why we have several exploitation maps for each technology or method or tool. So, and these are actually not easy questions. And what we saw is that for example, university wanted to, and works on a technology, okay, but it's not clear yet who will actually do this commercial exploitation, okay? And thinking on this already helps the university professor and PhD students who are involved in the research activities, help them to orient actually their work and interact more closely with the end users, Okay, so these are the example of questions that could be in the exploitation roadmap, and also there are some partners who are preparing their own map. It could be just one page. It's not necessarily long documents, okay? So it could be whether there is something like interaction with policymakers. It could be IPR strategy. Do we have any IP management bodies in the project? And it's very different, okay? So you really can adapt this as you wish. So I don't want to focus here on intellectual property rights at Horizon. What I just want to say, because we are speaking about exploitation, is that quite often is presented as a very complicated issue, but in fact, in the other projects that we were involved, and by discussing with different partners, it's actually, we will know that it's not so complicated, because the Commission gives all right to the consortium to agree what they want to agree in terms of IP protection, and basically there is no problem, and there is a comprehensive model consortium agreement, and everything is quite clear. So it's really not a bottleneck, at least in the projects that we were working about. Okay, then it could be a problem on the implementation level. Just to give you an example, okay, patent. Okay, if a patent is done, shall the partners who is filling the patent inform others? Because this is not mandatory, this is not a publication. I mean, it's not considered as a publication, at least there is no clear guideline on this. And so if it is not mandatory, it might happen that one partner files for patent and another one is not happy with this, for example. Okay, but these are really on the implementation level, and discussing about exploitation helps to avoid such situations. So again, this is what I said, that, I mean, there are some quite clear procedures. I don't want to focus on this now, because we discussed IP management in the previous webinars. Just to remind that exploitation can only be done when we have results, but it can be prepared beforehand. It can be prepared when the results are not available yet, okay? And just to remind that some basic principles, that cost is eligible for Horizon, and that partners has obligation to exploit. It's really an obligation through transfer licensing, or, I mean, when it's relevant, of course. So this is also part of the grant agreements. So just share experience. Well, if there is a project where at the beginning it's difficult to start exploitation activities because there are no results yet, but again, it should be prepared, and it can be prepared, okay? It's great to have exploitation manager to guide the workflow. If you are not on the Horizon project, it's also important to have exploitation manager who asks critical questions, okay? And this is very, very important, that someone who is neutral, who is not involved necessarily in the research innovation activities done by the project, ask these questions, okay? And of course, we need to have flexible support, flexible support. And this is just to give an example of a market study template that we agreed, for example, in the COPRO project. So it's not necessarily comprehensive, very in-depth market studies, but it's really some maybe express market studies that we do with the partners, and when some questions are answered. And again, it all is about preparation of exploitation activities in the project. And this is how our partners prepare business plan. So, and again, we don't have time to explain this in details, but if your partners in the project or yourself, if you think about these questions, prepare this, I mean, it's already will help smoothly in your future work. So what are the key messages about exploitation? Well, impact, I will tell this later, we will make another webinar, the next one on the impact maximization. We were asked about this actually by you and by other EaP participants. But, okay, just want to say that in the Horizon projects, but also in other projects, I mean, we do project because it is also at the end about impact, and it's about exploitation. And exploitation is one of the key elements to maximize impact. And that's why it's important to make it a bit formalized. It's really good practice, I mean, to have exploitation strategy, to do this in advance, and then to revise this during the course of the project. Okay, and if you do exploitation activities and maximize impact, this is the key for project success and also for the proposal success, because these are the questions that you actually should also include in the proposal, maybe not in full details. Okay, this is this is all about impact. And so on this slide, you can see some main sources of information about exploitation. There is IPR help desk who is doing this. There is a template of how to write innovation-related issues for Horizon Action, where these exploitation elements are highlighted. So feel free to use this. It's all free of charge, of course. Yeah. Okay. So this is what I wanted to share about exploitation strategy and how to start this at the beginning of the projects. Okay, and then of course you have exploitation steps for post-project. And if you saw this on the previous slides that I shown you, you see that there are questions about this. I mean, who will fund this? How it will be done? So of course all this is also part of your exploitation roadmap. But so you do this during the project, but you start to implement this perhaps after the project, and this is possible. But the sooner you can do this, the better. And it's all depend on the technology readiness level of the project, of course. That's all from my side for the moment. I will be happy to answer questions later on. And so, Christina, I will stop the presentation so you can, change the other one.
Yes, thanks a lot, Lana. So we will move on to Alexandra's presentation on Horizon 2020 Project Transparize. So the presentation is loading at the moment. This might take just a few minutes. Alexandra?
Yes, hello.
Okay, I will hand over the word to you. Alexandra, can you see the presentation, or is it still uploading on your screen?
Just a second. It's uploading.
Okay, it should be there soon because on my screen it's already on.
Yeah, on my screen too, so it should be okay.
Yes, have it also. So, shall I start?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So, hello, dear participants of the webinar. My name is Alexandra Petkevich, and I'm a Chief Project Manager at Adani. Adani is a high-tech innovation center located in Minsk, Belarus. Adani is specialized in development and production of X-ray equipment in the spheres of medicine, analytics, security, and non-destructive testing. Right now, I will describe our experience of taking part in scientific project Mesmerize in research and innovation program Horizon 2020. The main challenge of the project is to develop, manufacture, and validate in relevant condition at the end user's facilities a modular system that would improve security inspection of passengers at the airport, so that the inspection procedure takes less time and is less disturbing for passengers. Modular scanning system will comprise X-ray and infrasound technologies. The major milestones of our project were the following. Just wanted to show you, for example, in January of 2015, Adani has started its collaboration with 11 European companies on proposal preparation. All the partners met 2 times during proposal preparation in the facilities of Coordinator, University of Alcalá in Spain. For these meetings, we have received a twinning grant that covered all the expenses for travel. In August 2015, the final version of proposal was uploaded to the participant portal, and only after 5 months, in January 2016, we have received information that our consortium was awarded the grant for implementation of the project. The whole budget of the project was around 5 million euro for the term of 3 years. After the award, the procedure of grant agreement preparation and signing began, which ended at the end of April 2016. Therefore, the project started May 1st, 2016. Now, I would like to point out some issues that, in my opinion, have to be kept in mind. During proposal preparation, the main obstacles we were facing were the finding of right partners, end users and consultants. At the beginning, there was only 2 companies, including Adani and the coordinator. But we had an experienced coordinator that knew where to look for the partners, different databases, and simply their internet research. It is important to understand that the project depends on the whole consortium, all the parties. To reach the set goals, all the partners have to perform their tasks, prepare the reports for the deliverables, and obey all the rules set by the grant agreement. The main difficulties for me as a project manager of this project started when we were awarded a grant and when started all the registration of participants at the participant portal, company validation. I didn't think of it myself and wasn't advised by anyone that this process takes time, around a month and a half. All the information about the company has to be submitted to the portal. It is being checked. The LER has to be assigned, and the documents have to be sent in paper to the European Commission. And only after that, the company can perform some actions at the participant portal. The next major difficulty was that the grant agreement had to be approved by the Belarus authorities. We had to prove that this was not the humanitarian help or not material technical help. The issue was that the grant agreement is called this way, and everyone thinks that the private commercial company is going to receive money for nothing. We had to prove that all the money transferred to Adani will be covered by real eligible expenses for research, development, and manufacturing works, materials used for productions, and salary to the workers that are involved in the project. And the last issue that should be paid serious attention to is transfer of goods and materials across the borders of European Union in the frames of the project. As though Belarus is a third country at the Horizon 2020 project, it has its own legislation and rules. Therefore, it is not easy to ship the equipment that was produced as a deliverable in the project to some European Union countries. An issue of unpredicted expenses arose, for example, value-added tax, customs fees. So I would recommend to take into account the possible costs for customs fees and taxes when there is a non-EU company in the consortium, or to study the regulations very carefully and to find a possible way to avoid these costs. At large, concerning the implementation of the project itself, there were no major issues, I suppose due to the fact that all the partners responsibly performed their tasks and that the communication is well working, including emails and Skype calls. Mesmerize is currently at the stage of research and development and dissemination. Participants of the consortium take part in different conferences, exhibitions, and seminars and present for the end users of the system advantages of the new scanners that are being developed. This is done in order that at the stage of exploitation, we already have potential customers that are aware of the system. Also, in a grant agreement, in the annex to the grant agreement, we have stated the information concerning the exploitation. We have a separate task that is devoted to create a detailed business plan for the exploitation of results of the Mesmerize project. And we have planned that an external consultant will be contracted for the preparation of such business plan. For the whole system, Adani, as a manufacturer of similar systems, will have a preferred right for acquisition of an exclusive license. And the business plan will analyze and optimize the countries where a patent will be applied, optimizing the expected profit for the exploitation. Concerning the intellectual property rights, results are owned by the beneficiary that generates them. That is the standard statement of the article in grant agreement, and we also stick to it. Also, we have prepared a consortium agreement that is based on this statement also, but where all the data about the IPR is stated. And the last thing that concerns also the exploitation of project results is again the shipment across borders. When in a consortium of EU and non-EU companies, the attention has to be paid to shipment methods, customs, and tax regulations. With the Mesmerize consortium, we have been only through half of the project. A year and a half is ahead, and I think that after May 2019, I will have some other situations and points to mention. So I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Alexandra. So we are quite ahead of time, and we will go over to the question and answer section of the webinar. So please type any questions now in the conversation chat if you have any, and our speakers will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
maybe, so this is Svetlana, maybe I should take already the first question, that it is for me, from Olga Mirovska from Belarus. And yeah, Olga, thank you very much for the questions and also for all your help in the organization of this webinar. So the question is it a common practice to include in the Research and Innovation Action or Innovation Action Consortium a specialized partner for dissemination and exploitation? If not, what type of partner organization usually manage this task? If yes, are there any specific sources to find such specialized company? Would you recommend to include, at least in a technology-related project, as separate specialized partners for these activities? Okay, they could be different experience. What we experience is that there is always a specialized partner for dissemination and exploitation. Okay, and but I cannot say that this is something mandatory. It's just that we didn't see any project where it was not done, but I'm sure it exists. Okay, and someone managed this, maybe the coordinator. Okay, for example, in CoPro projects that I gave you as an example, our company InnoTSD is playing this role. And I presented myself and the company in the previous webinars, so maybe I don't need to do this now, but just to say that we are doing, as an example, yeah, the exploitation and dissemination activities in a number of projects, and we have a sister company in Germany that manage patent commercialization agency. But again, we are not technical in a specific like process industries technology that CoPro is developing. So our role is to add this component in the project CoPro, but also in others that I worked in another research innovation action, okay, and horizons that we're doing in parallel. And it's always appreciated to have a partner or another company, you know, like who are doing this. It's appreciated because this brings something additional to the team. This brings a neutral opinion. This brings methodological approach, okay, questions. And usually partners are very busy with the tasks. Of course, if there is a specialized company that has a mission to make exploitation in the project and technical competences, this is great. Okay, if, for example, there is a research innovation action consortium, and inside there is a medium size, for example, small size technological SME who will commercialize the technology, this is great. Okay, but then maybe they're not specialized in dissemination. It adds all these nice project outcomes visually, reaching end users, supporting in all visual elements, working with designers, because visual elements are important in the project, right? It helps to, for example, organize discussions. So yes, I would say from our experience, it is good to have such partner or to have an existing partner who can really play this role. Maybe they have a department who is doing this. And then it could be the same partner, but just different departments they involved. Because usually partners are very busy with research innovation work. So if in addition to this, they do leading of dissemination, and that's complicated. Okay. Then the question, are there any specific sources to find such specialized companies? Well, the easy advice would be take a look in the participant portal. There is a list of projects that are funded. And what we call homework. I mean, you can make a homework by analyzing the current projects or previous projects and their consortiums. And usually it's when you click on the website, for example, it's easy to see if there is dissemination exploitation partner or not, and you can just contact them. So I don't know about the database of such companies, but it is maybe just Google exploitation and dissemination horizon and specialized company. That's that exists. And last thing about this, so and I would personally recommend this to include in the project because it makes life easy and it helps in impact maximization. We will discuss impact maximization in the next webinar, okay? But yeah, this is, I think, good for everyone to have this, if this is possible, or to find someone to play this role.
Thanks a lot for answering that question, Svetlana. We have another question for Alexandra. So,
Yes.
Alexandra, in your project, which partners are mostly involved in managing dissemination and future exploitation? I am not asking about the names, about the type of organization, so universities or companies.
Okay, in our consortium, in the process of dissemination is mainly involved the coordinator, this is the university. And also there are end users of the system that are participants of our consortium. And also we, Adani, as a manufacturer of the system. So it's university, end users that are different customs, and others, and Adani. Concerning the exploitation, as I've said, we will have an external consultant that will be contracted for the detailed business plan, but I suppose that after we have this business plan, all of the parties will take part in this process.
I would like just to add, thanks a lot, Alexandra, that, yeah, this is also a scheme that is often used, that there is a subcontracting plan for some specialized partners, yeah. Interestingly, we have experience in our company that we received, for example, sometimes evaluation sheets of the, like evaluation summaries of the proposals. And sometimes we saw that, for example, there was a university, okay, who was planned for dissemination. And the remark was that it's not a good idea because they will be busy with other tasks, something like this, okay? So that was, but I think it could be a very different experience. So it's, but this university was not a coordinator. Okay, so that is, yeah, interesting comment that indeed.
Yeah, a coordinator, university, and also deals with dissemination exploitation. So as for now, it's working well.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. Because if this is a coordinator, it's good. Okay, if they're happy, absolutely. If this is not a coordinator, it might be difficult. But again, it depends on people, it depends on the experience. It's really very personal.
Yes.
Okay, the question is, Svetlana, what do you mean by open access to publication and research data? Okay, in the Horizon 2020 project, there is a mandatory open access to publications. It means that this is a policy of the European Commission. And open access should be provided by different means to publications. And there are pilot projects on research data and so on. So what it means that partners who is doing publication shall provide open access to it. Either there are different ways to do this. There is open air platform where publication can be uploaded if possible. So this is, yeah, sorry. So, yeah, it means that there are different ways to do this, but the goal should be that everyone outside the project shall have access to publication developed by the project. And sometimes there is a conflict. For example, journal publishers like Elsevier or others, they do not, or conference proceedings. Sometimes they do not authorize this, and this is complicated, okay? but for example, if you can purchase an access to make a publication an open source from the project budget, for example, I thought the case it was 3,000 euros. It was cost of making this publication an open access, and this can be paid from the project budget. Okay, so this is what I mean by open access to publication. It's mandatory. And by the way, the common pitfall is that such money are not planned in the project budget. So it's good to plan some money, I don't know how much, but yeah, some budget in the project budget to ensure open access to publications, just to push it, pay for this. This will be helpful.
Thanks a lot for answering that, Svetlana. So for the moment, I cannot see any.
Okay, I can, yes, yeah, I see the question. Exploitation plan include a part which goes beyond the project lifetime. Do the partner really follow this after the end of the project, and does anybody monitor this? Okay, I don't know about the monitor after the project. With the RAC questionnaire of the European Commission that sometimes we see, and this is about impact assessment. So this is monitored, but this is more anonymously. Okay, so it's not like I didn't see in our experience someone monitoring precisely our project as a part of contractual agreement after the end of the project. So we didn't see this. Okay, then do the partners really follow this? I hope so. And yes, because the partners are selected in the consortium because they want to achieve success. And if they want to have a business, right, then they're interested to do this after the end of the project. Like if I take example of Alexandra from Adani, I'm sure that when the project is finished, I mean, it's the business of Adani, and Adani will continue exploitation of the project results, right? So then, yes, usually the partners, especially when the consortium is rightly selected, really follow this. Maybe not necessarily how it was planned, okay? But yes, the more, the better they follow this, the better there is an impact of the project, and it's better for their business. In the same way, research partners are doing scientific exploitation, because they are interested to use project results in education. They're interested to make more publications, okay, to use this for discussion with other end users. Yes, so we have very positive experience about this, but indeed it is not mandatory.
Thank you, Svetlana. So if you have any more questions, please type them now. If no, then the webinar will end shortly.
I just want to say that after the webinar, we have questions by email. So it's better, I mean, this is also welcome, but it's really better for the participants. If you have already questions, don't send this by email, but rather prefer this open chat when other partners can benefit from the answers too. But this is just a suggestion. Okay. If there are no questions, I will maybe say about the next webinar. So the next webinar is planned for, I would say, end March or early April. We plan this as impact maximization topic. So this is a continuation of exploitation webinar, because there is exploitation is part of impact maximization activities, right? So, but there are other activities and they're related to exploitation. And there are other activities in addition to the dissemination, like benchmarking, analysis, and so on. So that all contributes to the impact maximization. So we will keep you informed. You will get communication about the dates of the next webinar. And so we will welcome all of you there.
Thanks a lot for participating once again. Also, we will upload the slides on the EaP Plus website shortly. This should be available already next week. We will also upload the video of the webinar as usual on our YouTube channel, and we will send you by email a short feedback questionnaire on the webinar. So we would appreciate it if you could fill that in so that we can adjust the next webinars to your needs. Thank you for participating and hope that you benefited from this webinar.